F1 Academy moves away from the Netherlands of the circuit Zandvoort and moves over to Asia races. Welcome to the Marina Bay Street Circuit in Singapore for round 5 of 7 in 2024. Hello everybody, welcome up to the commentary box as well, and the Singapore Grand Prix Academy practice session is underway. The drivers heading out there onto the circuit to get used to it. We're still in the daylight here in Singapore, as we will be for a couple more hours. Yellow flag already out in Sector 2, and it is a stop on the circuit for Ella Lloyd, who is our debutant driver this weekend. F1 Academy car comes to a halt, but she gets it rolling again, coming out of turn number 7. Welcome up then as well as we go back to green. This is F1 Academy on the streets of Singapore, a circuit which killed off the W Series, and with F1 Academy coming here proves that nothing can stop this series from running. We've already run in Saudi Arabia as part of the Middle Eastern races. Now this is our only trip to Asia before we head back to the Middle East, with Qatar and Abu Dhabi rounding out this year's championship. Dorian Pan coming out of the last corner up towards the line, still going to be warming up her tyres on this run around as well. Jess Ball will be with us this weekend, but only for race 2, so for practice qualifying in race 1 you'll have me up here in the box. Megan will join us later on for qualifying and for race 1 tomorrow morning. Omi will also be around. Yellow flag out back again in Sector 2. Let's say good afternoon though to Laura Winter alongside Alex Brundle up in the comms box. First of all, it's
Singapore is
Dorian.
It's going to be a challenge race because there is a lot of humidity and it's hot. It's I think I've looked at the weather on the yesterday night. It was 28 degrees at 9 p.m. So I think it's going to be very hot because both races will be at 3 p.m. So yeah, I think I have a bit more experience on that because I did endurance racing and it's close cockpit, and so yeah, it will still be challenging. So hydration will be the key for the weekend.
Fascinating to hear then how the drivers individually are going to be facing the heat and the humidity, the test of that here in Singapore. There is no doubt, Alex, this is the toughest test yet of their campaign as Pan sets a purple Sector 1 in the opening few laps here in free practice. Just getting to grips with this street circuit. 5 of this grid have previously raced here in 2022. Pulling, Chambers, De Hoos, Marti and Bustamante. None have raced the revised layout that we saw last season. But the heat and humidity is an altogether different test. Interesting, Dorian there saying that actually her endurance racing background will help her here.
I think it will be one of the biggest physical challenges for these drivers of the year. The circuit just keeps on coming at you here, corner after corner. Yes, there are a few less turns to encounter because of the change in the layout, which we saw last year, but it's also very bumpy out there, which can tire the driver out as well. The head, the body moving around inside the cockpit. Also for Pan, she's going to benefit a lot from her understanding and her experience in the car. Over that career in endurance racing, she's had very well connected with Iron Lynx, the endurance racing enterprise that have an ownership stake in Prima, and she'll understand as well the differences in track temperature and how they affect the cars. They're going to see wild fluctuations in circuit temperature because of the times that they're racing and qualifying out on the circuit. The difference in the times of day, some moving into dusk, some in the heat of the day. It's around 48 degrees of track temperature now, 32 degrees in the air. Going to be much cooler, isn't it, later on when they come to qualify, Laura?
It really is, and worth a reminder, this track is so green. We've had Porsche earlier on, one support class, but it is going to evolve and evolve. It's a street circuit, of course, normally these public roads. We're going to remain on board here with Pan. Maybe you can talk us through this, Alex.
Yeah, Pan making her way through the second sector then, and down towards the complex area of the racetrack. 10, 11 and 12 need to keep the car over to the left-hand side, and 11 with the outside wall. Saw Pan with a big oversteer moment there across this bridge, which characterises the exit of turn 12, and then the hairpin in turn 13, where in these 174 horsepower machines, it's all about keeping the momentum. That's what these drivers are going to be looking to do. Then the long run then for these cars through the new section of the racetrack, or coming up to it, the mid-corner of turn 14. Got to get out of that one. Maya Vug, who had a great round back in Zandvoort, 2 podiums for her last time out, following along with a great set of sectors in the early part of the lap. But it's Dorian Pan who we're following down towards the final few corners here, 16 and 17, the switchback, where again, important to get on the throttle through the exit, up close to the wall, but leaving a little bit of a margin in these early phases of free practice. Abby Pulling hits the top. What can Dorian Pan do against her series points rival? It is to the top for Pan, but I think Maya Vug is going to have a bit of a better lap. Yes, more than a second clear at this stage for the Ferrari Junior as the track continues to move forward.
Maya Vug is 5th in the standings, but it's a matter of 5 points that separates 3 to 5. Just a word on Ella Lloyd. We saw her in the pit lane just a moment ago. She was saying that actually the car, when she brakes, is cutting out. So a technical issue then for Ella Lloyd. We'll hope to see her back out. She's the wildcard entry, of course, for this round. Dorian Pan then just flagged by Maya Vug behind her. Let's hear from Maya Vug and that Zandvoort weekend now.
Yeah, Zandvoort was really strong for us. Yeah, really good. Feeling confident for this round. Needed a good round, especially after the tough couple of rounds we had in Barcelona and Miami and so on. So especially coming back at the home track and having a good weekend was really good. So yeah, feeling confident for this weekend, and I think it's going to be good.
It's going to be good. 5th in the standings at the moment, but it's very, very close for that final spot on the podium behind Pulling and Pan, who really have been the series leaders so far. But Pulling, my goodness me, as you mentioned earlier on, Alex, she can win this weekend. It would take an almighty swing of points, 41 to be exact. The biggest swing from Pan we've seen so far is 32 over that Barcelona weekend. I think Abby, in speaking...
Sorry, kind of caution there, Laura. Got a yellow flag out sectors 1 and 2. Not sure where it's come out at the moment. Drivers have gone through sector 1. Jess Edgar, Lola Fossey, Emily De House all coming through there as well. Maria Marti, Leah Block and Andrea Nobles as well. So yellow flags out. Mia Wagner's coming through, just down on a couple of tenths into the final, which is now 17-18. Now, where is that yellow flag out in the circuit? We never get told anything as Abby Pulling goes to the top of the board. As I get my, here we go, green flags back out according to my monitor. Jess Edgar is running slowly or stopped, I'm being told on my monitor. Now, why did that come back on? That's not meant to happen. So Jess Edgar has resumed, and Ella Lloyd also coming to a stop. So 2 cars having some form of technical difficulty. Now, before here in Singapore, we had a situation where the underground network, the subway, was causing issues, as that was Jess Edgar spinning round and touching the barrier onto the Anderson Bridge section. She's got the car restarted and got going again. But yeah, Ella Lloyd has also resumed. But yes, we had a problem here a couple of years ago where the technology in the cars would shut off because they were getting interference in the underground. Just wondered if that's something similar happening at the moment. Something's happened on our control monitors up here in the commentary box. Now, I don't know what exactly has happened. Seems like a glitch of something. But we'll hand back over to the wall.
Yeah. Said she's really enjoying coming to Singapore. Feels almost like it has proximity to a home race for her, even though it's not her home country. It's about as close as she can get. Pushing them through the middle sector and then into the final sector in her Tatas machine.
Bianca Bustamante, she'll be enjoying, I think, the privilege of
Yellow again.
Racing in Asia for the first time here in F1 Academy. As you say, it is somewhat of a home race. It's not too far away, and all bar racing in the Philippines itself, Bianca will be very much enjoying getting to grips with this track here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit. She throws the car around. We do have another yellow flag in sector 1. We were expecting this, weren't we, in practice? As we mentioned, no driver on this grid has driven this track in its current revised layout. And so we are expecting these laps to be pretty frenetic to get to grips.
Yeah, Woog finding another lap though, really nicely getting the laps together in that Ferrari liveried machine. You're absolutely right. It's a circuit they haven't driven before. It's a temporary layout here. Extremely dirty at this phase of the weekend. There's only been one session of running before this one. There is Edgar in the pit lane, and a little bit of damage there, is there?
The rear wing,
to the rear wing.
Bit of damage.
Looks like it's been. Looks like they managed to sort that damage, or just checking the rigidity of that rear wing. And you don't want to be losing those out on the racetrack. Can really lead to a nasty incident. There we go. Then there was damage, more damage than it appeared.
A little bit of damage, yeah, absolutely. The rear wing not looking as it should do. Jessica Edgar bringing that car back into the pit lane. She'll be ideally wanting to get out as soon as she possibly can, because practice so important.
So it's in the slot at the base of the beam wing there, but as it's loaded up, there is Edgar again.
Just a tap, wasn't it? But still, damage being done.
Yeah, and it looks to be in the mid-corner of turn 8 there for Edgar, having a spin and just catching the wall. Going to be interesting to see if they've got a spare rear wing down there. They can take it off the hangers and replace that element. Lloyd again. Driver 9th in the British F4 standings, 3 podium to her name, still having issues at this stage, and this is critical for Lloyd, who needs to get her head around this this championship, this new form of racing for her. We'll have a feel for the chassis. It's the same chassis that she will have raced in British F4, but she's losing critical track time here that she could really benefit from before qualifying later on.
Oh, gutting for the wildcard entry here for this 5th round of F1 Academy. Ella Lloyd, as you mentioned, British Formula F4, and she's 9th in those standings of 29 at the moment. 3 podium finishes, but really looking to get to grips with F1 Academy and all that it's about. And a wildcard entry here, a brilliant opportunity. And of course, that initiative introduced to help strengthen the talent pool in regions. And when those talented young drivers from each region, if there isn't one available, then they will bring the likes of Ella Lloyd in. And her livery, just to note, Discover Your Drive. That's the series' global programme aimed at changing perceptions of motorsport and inspiring the next generation of female talent. Well, Nerea Marti here. We are on board with 3 podiums so far to her name, Alex, for the season so far. One of those coming last time out in Zandvoort with a brilliant 2nd place.
Yeah, and a driver, again, in this gaggle, who are all battling over the 3rd step in the series standings. 85 points at the moment for Nerea Marti, 84 points for Maya Vuk, who looks to be having a relatively strong session so far, as Marti goes and puts that Tommy Hilfiger liveried machine up in 5th. But there's a really nice battle forming, well away, it must be said, from the leading battle in the championship. Chambers, Marti and Vuk over those positions. We're focused in with the Haas liveried American driver, sitting 14th at the moment, and with a little bit of time to find here, 3.1 seconds away from the absolute pace set by Vuk. They'll still be getting their eye in around this racetrack, and the tyre allows them to do that here. Relatively hard compound, giving them the opportunity to build and build on their performance as the track moves forward.
And of course, they tend to use 2 sets of tyres through qualifying, but no pit stop in the race itself. So they've got to manage that tyre through the race. And you're expecting them to use 2 sets of tyres in qualifying. Certainly on this street track, more difficult to overtake. Qualifying all the more significant.
We have this interesting setup in F1 Academy where drivers get 3.5 sets of tyres throughout the weekend, and often do use a half a set in qualifying around circuits where the qualifying session is not as important as getting the race together. So this weekend, very much, as you've been hearing from Abby Pulling in your chat with her, Laura, a weekend where qualifying needs to be optimised, and such, we're expecting them to throw tyres at it all throughout qualifying and then survive for the races.
I'm super impressed at the moment with Maya Vuk and how she's approaching this practice session. She's not hesitant, she is not holding back, she is more than throwing the car around this street track, and I guess that's the best way to really get to grips with the limits of this. As we just see, as we mentioned, the rear wing damage to Jessica Edgar's car. It's now entirely off the car itself, and this work will have to be frantic. You do not want to miss any running time on a street track you have not raced on before.
It's really important to get it back out there if they can. It looks like, as I suspected, of course, all of the kit that these feeder series, any feeder series team have to use in the session, whether it be F1 Academy, F3 or F2, needs to be brought down into the pit lane and such, and they are unlikely to have a full rear wing assembly down there for us. So I wonder if they've had to go to the support paddock to find the spare rear wing assembly to get it down there. But if as quickly as they can do that will be better, because obviously it's key for Edgar at this stage to get the maximum amount of running. Good pair of sectors for Chambers.
Yep, Chloe Chambers comes out of the last corner then. Is she going to have a better run around, as we've improved our timing tower, not with two commentators as it usually is, considering for the first half we'll have only one. Imogen Hughes has left the pit lane then as well. Abby Pulley's got a great second sector. Maya Vug then on top, 205.167. Here is Abby Pulley down into 16 and 17. Back on the power, 18, 19 and 20. The three last corners coming up on this circuit. Flick the car in. The rear wants to step out. Expertly controlled. And Abby Pulley goes top. 204.696 displaces Maya Vug from the top. Yellow flag is out again in this session. Not sure where that's come from. Dorian does a 205.184 for Dorian Pang. Let's take a look. Yellow flags are out. This is the 14 of Chloe Chambers down into the hairpin at turn 13. Just brushes the wall at the exit. Not sure where this yellow flag has come from. Jess Edgar's in the pit lane. Ella Lloyd is in that second sector. But we have no information about where that flag has come from. As we see the onboard sliding around now as well. Luckily, these green flags back out. So it was Leah Block who was running slowly or stopped. And she still has in the first sector. There we go. She spun it. Leah has spun coming before the hotel. So that's just for the Anderson Bridge section and the Singapore slings. So just a little bit of a mistake. She has got going. Or is it down actually after the Anderson Bridge? It's hard to tell in the daylight where that part of the track is. But Leah Block spinning the Williams.
We're in through the weekend.
It really will, and this is as bad as it'll ever be. It's very important for these drivers not to overreact to this session in terms of any loss of confidence, if they've had a spin or they've had a moment, or indeed over-engineering the car to a race circuit that is far, far away from where the circuit will be later on when we've had Formula One running on the racetrack, hoovering up all of the detritus from the race line and laying down that soft Pirelli rubber. Leah Block, the driver who was on the stage with Jamie Chadwick earlier on in the week as a result of her connection, both of their connection to the Williams Academy, and jumping on board with Dorian Pat as she makes her way through the mid-corner of turn 14, heads down towards the final sector of the racetrack. It's a better first sector for Pat, not quite as good in the middle. She's trying to find a little bit in the final few corners.
Just over 10 minutes to go then in free practice here in F1 Academy in Singapore, and at the moment pulling Vug and Pan trading blows at the front of the field, around half a second in it at the moment between first, second and third, with Chloe Chambers some 9/10ths back. You feel these are the front runners coming into this weekend, certainly the ones to look out for. Who else do you feel may spring a surprise as we're looking here at Lola Lovenfoss and that iconic Charlotte Tilbury livery?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend so far. Maya Vug, it looks strong so far throughout free practice. There have been several other drivers who've managed to score a podium this year. Bustamante, Handa, Alcabezi has been very strong as well in certain race conditions. Looking back at drivers who performed earlier on in the year around the street circuit of Jeddah might give us an idea, or indeed at the next venue in Miami. But to be honest, there have been a few key standouts of the series, haven't there? Pulling, Chambers, Marty, Vug, really the drivers who are finding their way relatively consistently to the podium. Those are going to be the ones to watch out for. I can tell you what I'm watching out for, how hard these young drivers are having to work around here. I don't think I've seen so much action and activity through the steering wheel of these Tatuus machines all year long. You can tell how aggressive and experienced it is over the bumps as Chambers makes her way through the final few corners of the lap.
We know Singapore is one of the most demanding circuits for any series, be that F1, F2, F3, F1 Academy here now. But it actually, if you really break that down and look at it, yes, it's the heat, yes, it's the humidity, yes, it's the oppressive, claustrophobic nature of the walls being so close to you, as we see a yellow flag through sector 2 and 3 once again. But equally, as well as that, it is the amount of time spent throttle to brake, the hard braking into these corners. It's such a low full throttle percentage here. There's very little time to rest. You don't have the luxury of a long straight to just take your breath.
No, you really don't, especially when it's hot and humid like it has been today. Block's finding herself wide through turn 19, so her adventurous free practice session continues. This, by the way, the livery that you might have seen on the Red Bull Formula 1 car this week.
Oh, and our monitors have gone off up here in the commentary box. So that is always the way for things to happen. We have now no TV pictures. So, fantastic. Lolo Fossey goes to the top as well. Actually comes into the pit lane on as well. Abby pulling. Maya Avuk as well coming in. Doyan Pan. Noelia Marty's in 4th. Chloe Chambers in 5th position, as we will try and get them going soon. And yellow flag out again out here on the circuit, as Oriela Nobles goes with a new personal best on a...
through the session, another yellow flag down in sector 2. They're still pushing hard out there, but I can see with around 9 or 10 laps gone, the performance starting to curve away from the tyre generally for the drivers, especially in that twisty middle sector. We've got Ella Lloyd off the road.
Lock up.
Hearing she has spun here. She'll be looking to get back going. This has been a baptism of fire, hasn't it, for Ella Lloyd? She's had absolutely everything thrown at her in this opening session. What a way to learn, very much in at the deep end, but it's not been a peaceful 30 minutes or so for her.
Spin down at turn 13, unfortunately, for Ella Lloyd, and definitely not the session that she would have wanted. I think it's so difficult to jump in the mid-phase of a series like this. Everybody else up to speed. They know exactly what they want. They've got a toolbox full of setup changes, and the assumed knowledge of jumping into one of these cars, having not an idea for the bespoke aerodynamic elements of the cars, what you're allowed to change, and also and specifically the tyre. To get a feel around the Pirelli tyre is a massive challenge as we continue to watch Aurelia Nobles make her way around the circuit.
She is indeed, and no doubt feeling the heat in that cockpit as well. Just a minor correction there. Let's hear then from Aurelia Nobles on just how humid it is.
Everyone knows Singapore is going to be really hot, and with the heat it's going to be really hard. So I've been training in Italy with Maya in a sauna with the fireproof underwear. So it was really hot, but I really prepared for this, and I was even training with a jacket and leggings outside, like 35 degrees under the sun. So yeah, I think it was important to prepare because, you know, with the helmet on. And yeah, the heat, you can lose focus really fast. So yeah.
I'm sure everyone watching at home has experienced that moment where you are unbelievably hot, and your capacity, therefore, to think, to act, to move, to interact with other people, let alone machinery like this, is diminished. And so this is what the drivers are working on here. The better they can acclimatise, the better they can adapt to the heat here, the more capacity they have to drive.
Yeah, and it's great to get that sense, and it's great that Nobles has been doing that, because the key is almost to train your mind as much as to train your body. It's so easy when you get extremely hot in a racing car to panic. Panicking, of course, makes you even hotter and destroys your concentration behind the wheel. If you're thinking of anything but exactly where you want to put the racing car in every single moment, then you're definitely losing time. So even if these are slightly less powerful machines, pulling slightly less G-force than machines further up the competitive order, even still, you need to not lose any focus at all to the temperature out on track. On board with Bustamante, making her way through the final 2 corners and picking up a little bit of a toe ahead, isn't she, Laura?
For a moment, I thought we were racing there. I thought Bustamante was going to launch and move up the inside on one of these twists and turns here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit. So pulling from Wug at the moment at the top of the standings, and there is Susie Wolf, Managing Director of F1 Academy, looking cool in the heat and looking ahead to free practice here, of course, qualifying to come later, and race 1 and 2 over the course of the weekend here in Singapore, as Dorian Pant has a purple Sector 1, personal best Sector 2 as well. So pulling from Vug, from Pant, these are the 3 at the moment, setting these timing sheets alight.
Yeah, and this is the battle, isn't it? At the front of the series, with 3 minutes to go in free practice, Marty finds a lovely lap as well, 2:05.1, around half a second away, just under half a second away from the leading time of pulling. But what will this lap from Pant be? We get a real feel in free practice for F1 Academy because the drivers are able to push on the tyre. This could be a good lap from Pant.
And it is up to second, and just 0.3 less than behind Abby Pulling, of course. Pulling currently leading the series by 71 points over Dorian Pant, and Pulling not finishing off the podium once. She is setting the standard here in free practice. And Alex, as you were saying, it's pretty frenetic, isn't it, the action through free practice 1, because they're able to set so many laps, work that tyre that little bit harder than you'd see in other series.
And because this is a weekend where they get less free practice time than they have in other weekends. So we're seeing relatively frantic action here as drivers try to home the cars in. Most drivers have been running throughout the full session here, trying to get the full number of race laps in to get a feel for the projected degradation of the tyre. 12 laps racing. So they're trying to get a feel for it. The track moving forward as well. They want to be running right at the end of this session because that's the closest they can get the racetrack to how it's going to be for qualifying later on. And as you can see from Nerea Marti, now they've cooled the tyre a little bit, they're able to push again and improve.
Less than 2 minutes to go there. Don't forget, some of these drivers do have experience from racing here in W Series. That was, though, before we revised turn 16 to 19 to make that into a straight and take out 4 of the corners. They are Abby Pulling, who is currently fastest, 2:04.648, the standard time here set by Abby Pulling. That is also Chloe Chambers, who is up there, P6 at the moment. Nerea Marti up there in P3. Bustamante and a host have all raced here. But a street track is so green, isn't it? It will change every time you're on it. You are on it. It will behave differently, Alex. And equally, of course, the layout's been revised, so it's relatively new for everyone.
It really is. Although drivers who have taken to a street circuit before do have that little bit of advantage. They know they need the front end sharp to make sure they can place the car exactly where they want it and then deal with the rear through the rest of the corner. That's the way you set a car up to deliver around a street circuit. These practice times giving us a feel for what we're going to see later on in qualifying. It's definitely a qualifying session. You're going to have to watch till the very final moments of, because drivers continue to improve and improve. And also a very different car. Each car behaves slightly differently, especially over bumps, undulations, curbs in the circuit surface. So honing in your machine to get it absolutely right around a street circuit, well, you start from scratch whether you've raced there before or not.
So into the last 15 seconds of the session then, checkered flag's going to come out. Maya Vuk goes up into 3rd position. Slight improvement there on time in the speed trap. It's Leah Block who's fastest from Alcabasi and Nobles as well. It'll be Amanda Alcabasi who has got the Red Bull livery of Camo Bull, which we were going to see this weekend. We were going to see the Camo Bull livery finally in Formula One, but Red Bull said it was too heavy a livery, so ergo we don't get to see it. And if Red Bull are saving weight, you know we're in trouble. Amanda Alcabasi goes up into 5th, yellow flags out in the first sector. Abby pulling fastest by half a second to Dorian Pan. Here comes Nuria Marti in 4th position. She'll come out of the last corner. A little bit bumping down one gear. Back up across the line. Up to 2nd for Marti. 2:04.339. Very good time. 3.5 tenths down on pulling, but ahead of Dorian Pan. What can Dorian do as she comes out of the last corner, up towards the control line now? 2:03, 2:04, 7 tenths down. She stays in 3rd position, her best time not improving as well up the field. And that is the end of the first practice session. Pulling fastest then, as there's Jess Hawkins, team ambassador and head of racing for F1 Academy Aston Martin, watching on with her driver Tina Hausman, and Jess enjoying that role immensely at Aston as she aims to be in Formula One soon. This is Amanda Alcabasi down towards turn 1 in the Camo Bull livery for Red Bull. Locked up at the rear and went straight across the track as well, missing out 2 and having to go around the outside into 3. And that's why we had the brief yellow flag. So Abby pulling fastest then from Nuria Marti in 2nd, Dorian Pan 3rd, Maya Vuk in 4th, Amanda Alcabasi 5th, Carrie Schreiner in 6th, Leah Block 7th, Chloe Chambers 8th, Lola Lovenfossey is 9th, Aurea Nobles 10th, Ella Lloyd 11th, Bianca Bustamante 12th, Tina Hausman 13th, Emily DeHouse in 14th, Amanda Alcabasi in 15th, and Jess Edgar down in 16th position. Let's head back to the world feed with London Winter and Alex Brundle.
Tiny little bits of apex speed. We've seen drivers battling over that throughout the weekend so far as they arc their way back into the feeder series paddock. Bustamante will be finding her way back there as well. And that is it for free practice. There's going to be
television monitors gone off again, I suppose. Oh well, we'll end it there. Thank you very much, everybody, for practice. We'll be back later on for qualifying as well. All the action is available on JB Motorsports. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.